Hello and welcome. This is Nancy, and I am so happy to welcome you here to my Seeking Truth Always live video podcast from South Bend, Indiana. It is Tuesday evening. It is the 30th of June in the year of our Lord 2026. And as always, I'm humbled and privileged to be here with you all, and just grateful that God woke me up 8 years ago. 8 years ago. It doesn't seem even possible. I had a busy weekend, a good weekend, had family in town, and from Friday through Monday, so it's hard to keep track of things going on. Try to sneak it in between stuff. In between family things, especially when the family visiting are asleep. They don't want to talk about nothing. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. You've got people in your life like that, right? I'm not the only one, right? So, yeah, it can be challenging. And we just have to bite our tongues sometimes. And slip in what we can when we can, and hope it, plants a seed. We don't always have to have a response, and usually when we do, when it involves TDS, it's not a good response. But anyway, all that aside, it was a busy weekend. It was a good weekend, and it's further and few between, with people's busy lives or our children's kids growing up, our grandkids growing up, and they having lives of their own, and you don't see people as often. So when they're from out of town, it's great to have that time. So I hope you had a good weekend too. And we've got a holiday weekend coming up. Now that'll be super quiet for me. Nothing going on for me personally, and like us and anything locally. So it'll just be, I'm going to be really excited to watch the 250th birthday party in Washington, D.C. That's going to be wonderful. And if things were different and I were able, it would, meaning, usually it's the financial thing, always. So it wasn't in our cards to go to it live. I wish it were. I would love to see it. I'd love to be there, experience the 250th birthday party in Washington, and all the 56 with the whatever they call, like Puerto Rico and things like that, Virgin Islands. I don't remember what they call them, but 56 altogether. There'll be 56 exhibits. They probably have the biggest Ferris wheel in the world I've ever seen, like in the pictures and stuff. That would be fun. But I'll be watching it from a front row seat in my living room. So that'll be my festivities, and my fireworks will be the nation's fireworks when I guess it's going to be the biggest fireworks display of ever. I don't know. It should be 250 years, right? 250 years. This country is this experiment called a country. That country's not an experiment. But what they did in this country was the biggest experiment of all times, and they who I refer to as the evildoers, and you can pick and choose whatever adjective you want for that. But it's nonpartisan, I will say that. It's not, yes, it's more of one party than the other as a visible rule, but there's an awful lot of people who say they're not that are those evildoers too. People don't stand up and say, I'm an evildoer. But their actions speak so loud, you can't hear a word they're saying. And so we know who they are. But over the last 8 years, it's been quite an experience trying to figure it out. And there's still some hidden, behind the scenes, trying to fake their way through it until everything totally is exposed. But I hope you guys are going to have a whatever kind of 4th of July you want, whether you're spending it with family or you're resting and just catching up. The one thing I don't like about the 4th of July is in residential neighborhoods, like, or any neighborhood where there's animals, they get so scared with the fireworks, and that part I hate. You know, I can't. Or even people with PTSD, you know, like they were in the war, any war. You know, those fireworks are, I love to see fireworks, and I don't mind the booming because I don't have any issues like that would bother me. But if I saw an animal in the crowd, I would be really upset, you know, because they are so scared. But I like seeing them, you know, they're so cool to look at. And anyway, I won't be doing that. It'll be on my TV. My cats don't mind it on the TV. They don't notice or pay attention to that. So anyway, I'm back, and it's so good to be here. We have a lot to cover tonight, as always. We have a series we're doing right now, and it is the sequel to the Fall of the Cabal. A few months ago, earlier in the year, I did the original series, parts 1 through 10, of Fall of the Cabal by Janet Ossebaard. And that was like a good part of my red pill experience. And if you don't know what red pill means, it goes back to a movie called The Matrix. There was red pill and blue pill, and red pill was like, take the red pill, you know, like they had this red pill, big red pill, and you'll see the truth. Take the blue pill, and then they showed a blue pill, you know, and you'll just, like, que sera, sera. You'll be in the world you've always been in, and you won't see anything different. It'll just be just like it always has been. And, yeah. So red pill is seeing the truth. So the Fall of the Cabal was one of the first, not the first, because there were other things that I learned and was aware of, but Fall of the Cabal put it all together and basically gave the proof I needed at the time. You know, however many years ago it came out is when I saw it. I'd have to look at like a copy date, you know, copyright date or whatever, or look back on the website and see like what year it came out. But whatever year that was, I was into my journey already, and I had heard a lot and learned a lot. But that series like cemented it all, because she showed a lot of visual proof of what other podcasters that I'd listened to, they talked about and I learned from, but they didn't like show anything. It was just like knowledge they knew, and they shared it. So I shared that with you guys a few months ago, parts 1 to 10, and now I'm sharing a 28-part sequel. 28-part sequel. And we're on part 5. And part 5 consists of information about the Georgia Guidestones. Many of you are aware of those. But when I first saw this sequel, and during that period of time, I had just learned about it or didn't know a whole lot about it. I learned about the Georgia Guidestones long before they blew up. Not blew up, but were decimated. I love that, because they're satanic and they're evil, and seeing that huge structure just one day destroyed. No one knew who did it. I don't care who did it. God did it, as far as I'm concerned. It's just like the rods of God. That has more than one meaning. But anyway, the Georgia Guidestones, we're going to be talking about them. You'll learn more about them if you don't know much about them. But this was made, probably the sequel was I don't know the date of it. Like, I don't know if it was made prior to them being destroyed, or after, but we'll find out. Because I've watched them all, but it's been a long time since I've seen them. And then this one also was talking about Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, I think they call it. Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, and about the UN. So she and Cynthia Koeter are that partnered on these series. You're going to learn a lot. And if you've already seen them, watch them again. It's like any movie you go to, or any seminar you'd sit through, or any history book you'd read, or any novel you'd read, whatever. You're not going to pick up 100% of it. If you're reading the Bible, you're not going to pick up 100% of it. You're going to read it once and go, okay, I read it. I don't need to read it ever again because I remember everything. Now, some people might, because some people, I think, do have a photographic memory. But I mean, that's a teeny tiny, itsy bitsy, tiny, small part of the population. So we have to read scripture over and over again. We might read the same passage, the same chapter, let's just say a year ago, and this year we read it, and it's like, whoa, I don't remember saying that. Or, whoa, that really speaks to me right now, where you didn't remember from a year ago or whatever. Well, it's like that with the sequel to the Fall of the Cabal, as well as the Fall of the Cabal. You will always learn something new each time you watch it, even though you may have seen it before. You might have been thinking about this part that, there's, this part of this episode you're watching, and you're like, whoa, and you're like trying to process that. But the next part of the video is going while you're still processing what you just saw, because so much of it is like, whoa, whoa, what? Especially when you're just waking up, and you're not familiar with any of that stuff. So anyway, we're going to be doing that tonight, part 5. I am also going to be sharing with you, this is a wow on steroids video I'm going to be sharing with you. A wow on steroids. Anyway, recently there was a fraud summit in Las Vegas. Just like I couldn't go to DC, I couldn't go to Las Vegas either. Like, I don't go anywhere really. Budget don't allow it, so you don't go. And but there was a fraud summit. Now, like him or hate him, a guy by the name of 107 hosted it. And some people love him, some people hate him, some people believe him, some people don't believe him. He's been around since the beginning. He's one of the first I listened to that wrapped into his description of true history more scripture than anyone I'd ever listened to, with all the different people I'd listened to in my journey. And you guys know, who watch me, I do a visual of each of us. We all have an awakening journey, a beginning and an end. None of us have gotten to the end, but all of us, if we're here, you're on the journey. You might have only started waking up a day ago, or a month ago, or 1 year, 2 years. You might be 20 years, but we all are on this journey, and we're all somewhere in this continuum, or whatever you want to call it, distance between the beginning and the end. And when I first heard 107, I didn't know who he was. And anyone that's listened to 107, you know that he can go on and on. He's a wealth of information, don't get me wrong. Some people think he's JFK Jr. I've never aspired to that. I say anything's possible. With God, all things are possible. And I do believe JFK Jr. is alive. I do. But I just don't think 107 is him. But some people do believe that. Because he's going to be somebody. If JFK Jr. is alive, he's probably been in front of us in some way, shape, or form as somebody or somebodies. And yeah. So some people, of course, people that aren't awake think if he's ever heard of him, they think he's a fraud and so forth. But at any rate, I believe he is knowledgeable. I believe he has more information he wraps so much around Scripture, which, from a biblical perspective, he awakened me into how much of this, in the beginning of my journey. I mean, I know God's in control of everything, but I mean, he was like the first person who did podcasts, and sometimes they were like really, really long, and he just taught. I mean, he would be interviewed, but he would just, somebody would ask him a question, and this is true still today. You ask him a question. I don't watch a lot of his podcasts, not even his podcasts, he's guests on others, but I've listened to him for my whole journey, you know, so there isn't, I get most of my information from sources God revealed to me along the way that aren't big names. They're people like me that just do research. They're not in it for the money. They're not in it to sell all the goods and all the sweatshirts and t-shirts and hats and, you know, every nutritional product on the planet. You know, I listen to people that are just, for me, like doing the will of God, and this is what he called me to do, and learn and teach. First learn and then teach. And I didn't know the teaching part was coming. He kind of sprung that on me a year and a half into my journey. But yeah, here I am 5 years later, still teaching, still learning. But all right, I get sidetracked. 107 is hosting this fraud summit, and over the weekend, while my family was visiting, and I didn't have a whole lot of time. Okay, some of you are going to really understand this, and some of you are going to really laugh, and some of you are going to say, I can't believe she just said that, but I'm going to say it, because you guys know I'm pretty transparent. But the only place I could listen to this was when I was in the bathroom. I couldn't listen to it with my asleep family that was visiting, my not awake family who was visiting. So I listened to it in the bathroom. Or if they were busy doing something else and I was in the kitchen working or something, I'd have ear pods and, you know, I'd be listening to some stuff. But I actually listened to, you know, yeah. Well, you guys, you know you've done it probably too. Maybe. But at any rate, that's how much I wanted to hear. You know, I don't want to be in the dark. I want to know what's going on. And this, one of the people God led to me in this journey, like all of you were led to this, to seeking truth always. And she lives not too far from me, actually, in our area. A lot of you locally know her. Her name's Joan. And so she sent me this video, and I hadn't watched any of the Fraud Summit, spent the time to watch. I didn't watch the whole, it was live stream, but I didn't have the time to watch the whole thing. And so I just figured I'm going to find clips of it. Well, this was the first clip I got, actually. That I got to, I should say. That I got to. Joan sent it to me, and she sends me some pretty, I mean, you all send me good stuff. And I just don't have time to listen to it all the time. But because I wanted to listen to what was going on at the Fraud Summit, I made the time, even in the bathroom, to listen to it. And it's amazing. I mean, it is like, I don't know if you guys know the name, what is his name? Peter Santilli. Peter Santilli. I knew the name. I mean, I heard the name. I've seen him, like videos of his come and go. Haven't spent a lot of time getting to know who he is or what he did or how he knows what he knows. But this video, you know, that I'm going to share with you guys from the Fraud Summit with Juan introducing Peter Santilli, and then Peter Santilli tells the story, so I'm not going to duplicate that. But this is a guy that was sent to jail because literally he knew too much. And just like, I mean, all these fraudulent money scams we've come across, where a lot of people went to jail because, I mean, look at Tina Peters. You know, if you know who she is, you know why I said that. But she was exposing, I think it was in Arizona, election fraud way back. She just got out. In fact, at the Fraud Summit, is when she was released. And I saw a clip go by that I did watch that, of her being introduced at the Fraud Summit, and she's a warrior. She's a hero. She's older than me. I think I'm 70, and I believe she's 72 or 74, something like that. And she was in jail for at least prison for at least about 3 years, I believe. She couldn't get released. They wouldn't. I mean, everything was being done because it was all a sham, and it was all because she was exposing real time the fraud that went on there. And they jacked up some charges, and the judicial system that is as corrupt as the day is long, especially on the liberal side, they put her in prison. So anyway, Peter Santilli was also imprisoned. And anyway, you're going to hear you're going to be so excited when you get done listening to him, because he shows the receipts. He has the receipts. God just put him at the right place at the right time, and he is fearless. Because there's a target on his back to this day. Even though he's been released, he's out there still talking. He's not like, I think I'll kind of stay in the background. No. It's all coming out. It's that snowball rolling down a hill. I want you guys to hear this, because most of you probably won't, because you got a busy life, you got kids at home, or you've got a job, or you've got lots of things going on and you don't have time. And that's what God put me here to do. So when he puts in my spirit that, okay, they need to hear this, or they need to see this, that's how I come up with my itinerary for these podcasts. And this was one of those things. It's like, as soon as I started listening to it, it's like the Holy Spirit said, and I didn't even listen to it all yet. The Holy Spirit said, you got to prioritize this for Tuesday night. So anyway, I am. And then I'm going to give you a few updates. And I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the UK. It's called the UK RAPE. That has an algorithm that really goes, if you say that. RAPE gang, the RAPE gang inquiry report. If you haven't heard anything about that, it's important. I wanted to get to it last week, couldn't get to it. It's important you hear about, and again, it's about exposures. It's everything that's being exposed. It's again this everything is converging together, whether it's trafficking, whether it's election fraud, whether it's COVID, whether it's the vaccines, pharmaceutical, medical, fraud in money, billions, trillions of dollars fraudulently taken from taxpayers, and it's converging worldwide. It's not just here in the United States, it's worldwide, everywhere. This particular fraud took place, not fraud, but exposure of the UK, United Kingdom, RAPE gang, and what they are being held accountable for and what they are being convicted for. It's like, praise Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Again, more exposures, things are happening, things keep happening. For everybody saying nothing's happening, just because things aren't happening on our timeline. Like, we're here to serve. We're not here to be served. We're here to serve. Some of you know who Allie Carter is. I've showed her videos before. She is a trafficking survivor. She is a woman now, but she was trafficked through the system all the way. She was trafficked to different countries. She was trafficked to the White House during different administrations. She started whistleblowing years ago. Multiple years ago. Again, early in my journey, I started learning about Allie Carter, and she has spoken up about the tunnels, about Hollywood, about the politicians. She has named names. Again, she's another warrior. she exposed CPS. She just recently, I'm not going to show her video I watched last night after my family went to bed. That's the other time I could watch things, is after they went to bed I could watch something. So I watched this. It was a little less than 20 minutes. I can't show it to you because she can and does and has a right to be very heated and upset about certain things that a lot of people just sort of turn the other way, even to this day. And her thing is all about saving the children. And I'll put it in a nutshell. I mean, this isn't why I was going to tell you this, but I'll just throw it out there because she was really angry because she has a lot of people comment on her stuff, and a lot of them are like the TDSers. They want her to expose President Trump, like, because they're TDS, of course they think he would have been one of the presidents, and she has been as clear as day, you know, that she never saw him, and he never did anything to her when he was a rich billionaire playboy, if you want to call him that. At one point, I mean, she was in the system. She's probably, my guess is she's around 25 to 28 years old, somewhere in that area now. But I could be wrong about that. I'm sure I knew at one point, but I just don't remember exactly because I've watched her, know her journey for years now. But she was just angry because so many comments come in her feed wanting her to expose Trump. She says, you know, I never saw him. He was never there. You know, I can't say he was never there if I wasn't there, but I never saw him. And she's and she was angry that people are, I mean, this was the whole purpose of her video. Like, she's saying, get your mind off Trump and get your mind on the children. This isn't about Trump, and it isn't about, you know, he is like way down here, that who you should be, you know, worried about. You should be worried about the children that are still being raped and tortured, and in the system, and in the tunnels, and in the trafficking rings, and their organs are being donated, and. But she uses the F-bomb a lot, and when she's really fired up. She was really fired up in this video. But she was just calling out all the people who are basically TDSing. They'll give a rip about the kids, all the things that Allie talks about what kids are going through to this day that are trapped in the system, like she was. And they're out there, you know, holding signs up about, you know, the orange, you know, man, bad man orange or whatever. But at any rate, she's a warrior. She's been out there for years. In fact, she has to live. Her she has an adoptive mom, because the reason she was in the system was because of the biological. And I'm not going to go into that whole story. Some of you know it, but she was adopted, and her adopted mom, who is her mom now, you know, they've had to live in hiding because there have been so many death threats against her. Because number one, very powerful people have been exposed by her, and number two, the people that don't believe her, or that, you know, are TDSers, you know, they don't like the fact that she doesn't name him. Like, I guess they want her to lie about it just because. All right, enough of all that. We're going to talk about that UK RAPE gang tonight and a few updates. So with that being said, I'm going to say hi to a few people, and then we are going to get started. Powerful podcast tonight with lots more exposures and truth. Yeah. Who's with us? Who's first? For those that are new, and if you'll leave a comment, I truly appreciate it, because I don't know you're here unless you do. And if you regularly visit me here and you're not leaving a comment, you guys, I will, you know, put a guilt trip on. You guys need to comment. You know I can't see your comments. So those of you that want to stay incognito, you have every right to, but man, I'd appreciate it if you'd say hello, and I would love to say hello back. But anyway, Ramona is officially the first in the house tonight, and she hails from South Bend, right here in Indiana where I do. And she said, hello, Nancy and everyone. And Sonia is joining us, and she says, from Northwest Ohio, good evening, Nancy and everyone listening. And welcome to you as well, Sonia. Carolyn is with us tonight. She's from this, metropolis of South Bend, Indiana as well. Metropolis, right? And she says, hi, Nancy and all. I'm staying home the 4th to console my cat. Yep. She hates it so much. And we get them in our neighborhood too. And my cats, we have a 3-season room, and I make sure I have the windows closed, on the 4th, especially, because of that too. So I get it. I totally get it. They hate it too. They have been shooting them off for the past month or so. I haven't heard too many in our neighborhood. She lives on the north side of South Bend, for those who don't know. And I live on the south side of South Bend. So that's why I say they haven't shot too many. I haven't heard too many yet. Once in a while, over the weekend, I heard a big, everyone here, we all heard a big boom, But, yeah. But we have the 4-H fairgrounds. I'm real close to the 4-H fairgrounds. You guys know that live around here. The subdivision, Kensington Farms, and that's I'm probably a mile, maybe 2 at the most, from the fairgrounds. So yeah, when they do the fireworks, we hear it. We hear it. So anyway, thanks for sharing, Carolyn, and so good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And Kathy is joining us from Dayton, Ohio. And she says, got my notification late. Well, I sent them out. If you probably don't have any other person you follow that literally manually, if I sent you all a group message, every time someone responded, you all would get binged, 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 binged. So from the beginning, the adage, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Whenever we're added to a group and we don't want to be added to a group, we get all those notifications, and lots of people respond to me. So I send out manual. Every one of you get a personal send from me, and I take the time to do that. And trust me, I send a lot of notifications, and they're not just in text and or messenger, they're in both. So I never want to do that to you guys or to my followers, it's just, I just have always sent it. I figure up what I'm going to do. I make the message. All of it's done. Me, myself, and I. One woman show here. And then I send them out. So that notification, that would have been, either your, Facebook. You get yours through Messenger, Kathy. So, Facebook was screwing around with them probably, But I send them all out at the same time. Well, it's like one, then the next, then the next, then the next. So it's not exactly the same time. But I'm glad you're here, regardless. And she says, hello, everyone, from hot Ohio. Oh, don't get me on that subject. Oh, it's awful here, too. Indiana, right next door. Ugh, it's terrible. Hate it. I'm not a hot weather person, especially a humid hot weather person. I like to be cool. See this fan right here? I'm going to put over here, if you can see this, this fan. It's blowing on me. It's blowing on me right here. I have central air conditioning. I mean, most people do, but I close my office door because my cat, especially my one, will come up on my desk, and then you'll see her tail go across. She'll walk right across me. Anyway, she knocks things over, and so I had to start closing my office doors. So it gets, the air conditioning vent is still in here, but it just gets not cool enough for me. So I have a fan blowing on me too. I also have a ceiling fan going, and that fan going. I agree with you, Kathy. Hot Indiana. And Connie is joining us from Kansas, and she says hello from hot, humid, miserable Kansas. I'm with you, girl. I'm with you. Misery. We complain about everything. I don't complain as much about the cold. I don't mind cold. I can always put another coat in. I mean, I don't like the dirty yuckiness of winter after the streets get sand or salt in them and it gets ugly dirty. I don't like that part of winter, but I don't mind the cold. I don't mind the cold. I like I said, I can always put more socks on, more shoes on, more sweaters on, more coats on. Cover a scarf on the face if I need to. That's me though. So welcome, Connie. So glad you are with us as well. And what else? Kathy, I think Kathy had it. Yep, there it is. She is Diddy's daughter. I've heard that too. I don't know. I don't know if you know more than I do about that and you've seen some conclusive evidence about it. What I've heard, and I've heard that's a possibility, a huge possibility. But I don't know for sure if it's true. So if you know something or have seen something that validates that, I would love to see that, Kathy, if you've got that. And because I have heard it, I haven't done deep dives into it as far as to get to the bottom of it personally. So if you know more or something, yeah, share that with me. I would love to know more about that and have a little more information on that. So thanks for sharing that, Kathy. And my husband is here. He says, hi, babe. Finally got a break to check in. Well, I'm glad you did. And welcome. And for those of you that don't know, even if you're in South Bend and you order Grubhub, he's out there delivering food in this hot, humid, miserable heat. Yeah. And he's got an air conditioner in his truck that doesn't work sometimes consistently. And he thinks he's found a trick. He told me just recently that is working. I'm not going to go into detail because it's not relevant, but I hope the air conditioner is working decent for him, for you, Daniel, and you don't have to explain it or anything in a comment, but sometimes he's out in this hot, miserable heat and it hasn't worked, and so I hope it is working for him. All right, and so welcome, Daniel. Glad you're here, listening in between deliveries. And Nikki says, good evening, Nancy. It's Nikki tuning in from Simpsonville, South Dakota. I'm messaging my mom, Petrie, to that so that she'll listen to. We look forward to hearing you cover these diverse, they are diverse, aren't they, topics tonight. Thank you, Nikki. Good to see you. I look forward to seeing your mom, too, when she gets on. And if she leaves a comment. But if not, tell her I said hi. And Kathy says, I truly am not blaming you. I blame my phone. I didn't think you were blaming me. I promise you. I just don't think I've ever told you guys that I send them all out personally. I don't think I've ever told anybody that on a podcast or even like in person. Like you all know I send notifications when you ask me to include you on the list. But my list is simply that, and then I do it all. So I didn't think you were blaming me, Kathy. I promise you that. I knew it was a techie thing, but I just thought, I've never shared that. I guess I will share that, because I'll bet you there's no others. I just bet you there's no others. I can't even get people. No one is. People don't even respond. Like, just, they don't do anything themselves. Most of them have people working for them, or they have all this money and they have all these people that are tech geniuses doing everything for them. But I mean, I suppose there might be programs out there I could get, but they cost money, and I can do it myself, and that's why I have for over 5 years. Okay, and Pam, Pam? Oh, you know what I'm going to talk about. This woman sent me homegrown tomatoes from Louisiana. Okay, you know how hot it is out there, guys? She sent me some amazing tomatoes, and she packed them so perfectly, and they weren't quite ripe yet. And the problem was they took a little bit longer than they should have taken. She thought I'd have them by like 3 days later, and I didn't get them until yesterday. Well, only one tomato was, but she individually packed them, each one separate in bubble wrap. It was amazing. So yeah, thank you. And they, like, I buy store tomatoes and they have no flavor. They taste like cardboard half the time. I haven't had a homegrown tomato. Oh my gosh, these things are so good. They just like melted in my mouth. Not because they melted in the shipping. There was one, I tasted it, Pam, the one that was all like, and yeah, it was sour. So I didn't put that into my tomato soup. But the two that had just a little mark on them, like starting to get soft in that area, the two, and I sent her a picture. And so anyway, those taste fine. And then the other 4, there were 2 that had just a little bit of issue on them from the heat. And I cut those parts out, and they tasted great. And then I have 4 more that were like picture perfect. Not a problem on them. So I can't believe they made it and did so well. They were out there for, let me see, Monday. So she shipped them Tuesday in the heat, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 7 days in the heat. Anyway, Davis also is with us. Welcome. So glad you're with us, Davis. It's good to know you're here. Pam, thanks for letting me know you're both here. And thank you again for all the goodies you sent me. I'm so grateful and appreciate it more than you have any idea. So thank you. And Kathy says, I'm pretty sure I heard her say it, that she's Diddy's child. Okay, I've not heard her say that. So thank you for sharing that. If you have a video or see a video at some point with that, shoot it my way and let me know. I'd love to hear that. All right, we're going to, where do I even start? Sometimes it's like that, you know. Where do I even start? I have so much I want to show and tell you and show you. All right, I'm going to start because I talked about Allie Carter. I talked about the trafficking. I talked about why she was so angry. And I share her anger. I'm not a trafficking survivor, but I'm somebody who got introduced to this evil trafficking organized crime syndicate worldwide, gangs, cartels, wealthy evildoers, I will just say. And I guess God, my thoughts on why, God, are you showing me all this? 8 years later, I can say, I believe it's for this reason, because if I could handle that, the devastation, the devastating emotions that come from learning the truth about the horrible, the word horrible is like on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the worst kind of horrible. It's a horrible 1 because it's actually like we can't conceive the horribleness at a level 10. And that's what these kids endure while they're living and then in death. And if they happen to survive, the trauma that they're left with their entire lives. And so Allie is angry and has far more right to be angry than even me or you. But she's righteously angry. It manifests sometimes in F-bombs. So it's like, oh, I wish I could share that video with you guys, because everybody needs to hear it. They really do. Not the F-bombs necessarily. But I don't judge her. I just can't do that on a podcast, because when I share a video where you can hear it, it doesn't get bleeped out or whatever. And I can't do that because I'll get knocked offline. And rightfully so. I don't, I don't know if that's right to censor or not, but it's fine with me if it is, because I don't care. I'm not a prude, and I've even said it myself in my life. But regardless, I'm going to start with the UK RAPE gang. I'm going to share that information with you since we talked about Allie, and I want you to know why she's so righteously angry, because what I'm going to be sharing with you out of UK, the UK is happening right here and in just about every civilized nation out there. This is not a problem that is unique to any one country. It's just this one right now is prosecuting it. to the max. So the first thing I'm going to show you, because it's referenced in this article, I've downloaded it to my computer. It's a PDF. It is 209 or 19. I need glasses to read the fine print. It's 219 pages, this report. I'll turn this around. And this is a PDF that you're looking at. I'm not going to obviously show you 219 pages, but I will show you that it is 219 pages. There it is. And yes, this is what it's called. And this is the table of contents, and different table of contents subjects are, you can see on there, victim testimonies, overview of the crimes, whistleblower testimonies, where they happened at, the culture, the demographics. 219 pages of it. And I'll just like scan a little bit. Like that says London. Oh, it's showing an area. There's like a map where they operate. They've operated in at least 149 local authority districts across the United Kingdom. And that's a map of it. But this is, there's so much. I'm not going to stop. I'm just showing you. It's just 219 pages. Okay, like, it's brutal. I have not read all 219 pages. I have read some of it, and I have looked at some of the testimonies. And these 219 pages would be the same thing happening in our country, in every country. These list the counties, the cities, all those cities. Look at that. All over the United Kingdom. Same thing in our country. It's not about, oh, the United Kingdom is worse. No, they're not. This is just an example. Okay, so I'm going to share with you just one. A woman by the name of Michelle. Her name is Michelle. And this is from that report that you just saw. This is one in those 219 pages of the multiple people who testified in court against these perpetrators, against these disgusting, despicable, I don't even call them human beings, they're animals, they're not even as good as animals. They're demons. That works for me. They're demons. I'm reading you this so you understand why Allie, that I talked about, is so angry that they're whining and complaining about President Trump, or whatever TDSers whine and complain about it, which is everything. And why they're not yelling at the rooftops and screaming as loud as they can to save the children, to save the children. And when you hear this article, and this is only one in 219 pages, Michelle, this is her story, Michelle says that from the age of 13, she was raped. I said that word. Okay, I'm going to try to remember to say she was, I'm going to say roped, okay? So whenever I say roped, it's supposed to be an A. I'm going to try to remember to do that, just to make sure it's not censored out. Okay, so Michelle says that from the age of 13, she was roped by between 600 and 700, from the age of 13, 600 and 700 different men over the course of 3 years. 98% of the rapists were Pakistani Muslim. If not, they were Iraqi, Muslim, or Kurdish. She testified. She told the rope gang inquiry, that's that report I showed you, that there is an extensive network of abusers operating across the entire country, calling it industrial in scale. It functions as a large central network with smaller connected groups in specific localities. Last year, Rupert Lowe, MP, Restore Britain, that must be like one of their parties or something, MP, I'm not sure, but they said Restore Britain, launched a campaign to raise funds to hold an independent national inquiry into the UK's Muslim rope gangs. This year, the victim-led rope gang inquiry was held, during which testimonies from victims, parents, carers, politicians, and a variety of experts and whistleblowers were heard over 10 days, from February 2nd to February 12th. On June 16th, about 15 days ago, 14 days ago, whatever, this inquiry was released to the public. At the very least, 250,000 young white girls have been subjected to repeated rope, gang rope, trafficking, torture, pregnancy, forced Islamic conversion, and lifelong trauma. The rope gang inquiry reported on all of this. The 250,000 figure is based on remarks passed by Lord Malcolm Pearson during debates in the House of Lords over the years, as seen here, and there's two links there that I could go to, but I won't for the sake of time. The figure was extrapolated from the J Report's findings in Rotherham, alongside comparable inquiries in Telford, Oxford, Rockdale, and elsewhere. In 2015, now think how far back this goes, 2015, Rotherham's then MP, Sarah Champion, said, quote, "There are hundreds of thousands, and I think there could be up to 1 million victims of exploitation nationwide." She's still talking about just the UK. "Including right now, girls in the process of being groomed." Thousands of these victims volunteered their testimonies for this inquiry. On pages 18 to 21 of that report I just showed you, of 219 pages, on pages 18 to 101, think how many pages that is, the inquiry's report provides a summary of some of them, not even all of them. This that I'm going to be sharing with you is Michelle's testimony. Michelle is not her real name. Some of the witnesses have to remain anonymous for their own safety. You can read the full report, and then there is a link, but I won't go to that in the podcast here. And then this states, like Chloe and Fiona, so two other victim testimonies, Michelle was a vulnerable child from a dysfunctional family with little to no parental support. There is a pattern of vulnerable children being deliberately sought out and targeted. From her personal experience, Chloe, this other testimony, Chloe described the grooming process by groups of Muslim men, primarily Pakistani, many of whom were taxi drivers, as them mapping out, are you a vulnerable person? Once her vulnerability had been established, this Chloe, things escalated. Fiona testified, Michelle believes authorities, such as the police, failed to intervene for fear of being labeled racist. You know, that world we live in where you're not allowed to say another. I need to put that down a little bit. Okay. Where we're not allowed to, you know, even though it's accurate, just say I'm white. I mean, anyway, it's the world we live in. Michelle believes the fear of being labeled as racist has helped make these Muslim rope gangs untouchable. So this is coming from Michelle, and about Michelle. Michelle was physically abused in childhood by both her mother and her stepfather. Her mother had multiple partners throughout Michelle's childhood, many of whom also abused her, some sexually. She believes this early experience created an association between abuse and love, leaving her particularly vulnerable. From the age of 13, she was groomed by 3 adult Pakistani brothers who supplied her with alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs. She was roped while intoxicated, including one occasion when she was taken upstairs while her sister tried to intervene. Because of her upbringing, she thought this was normal. That was normal. That they were her boyfriends and that they loved her. She would go missing for extended periods and was subjected to repeated daily sexual abuse. I just don't like to say certain things. The perpetrators would collect her from school. They would pick her up from home. They would pick her up from public places, using threats of violence to coerce and control her. And at the age of 14, that was 13, at the age of 14, she was gang roped and beaten by 3 men who had locked her in a house. She was left covered in cuts and bruises, which alerted a friend. The friend told her mother, who then contacted Michelle's mother. The police were called, but they claimed there was little to go on without more evidence. One of the gang members later forced Michelle to go to the police station with him to retract her statement. The police accepted him as her appropriate adult, a role normally reserved for a parent, a close family member, a social worker, or a trained professional. The investigation was subsequently dropped. One of Michelle's friends, who lived in a care home, would be collected directly outside by the same gang. Care staff would call the police, but officers reportedly referred to the girls as prostitutes, despite them being children. Both social services and the police, Michelle said, failed to understand the situation and believed the girls were engaging in the activity by choice. 13 years old, 14 years old. And if you think, well, that was there and that doesn't happen here, you are wrong. This is just exposure going on in the UK right now. It is no different here. It is no different here. As a result, little was done to intervene. When she was abducted and went missing, no one came looking for her. A social worker once told her, at age 14, she would be allowed to live with her 30-year-old boyfriend, as long as they did not share her room. Michelle was roped in bin sheds, threatened with a knife, and forced into SCX with multiple men waiting in cars. She was drugged. She was beaten. She was burned with cigarettes. She was locked in rooms and passed between men. An amusement arcade was used as a front for the drug dealing and the exploitation sexually of children. She became pregnant 4 times. She was still a child when she became pregnant, and each was the result of rope, leading to miscarriages, 1 abortion, and 1 surviving child. Of her abusers, she states, 98% of them were Pakistani Muslim. If not, they were Iraqi, Muslim, or Kurdish. Michelle believes these gangs have remained untouchable because authorities feared being labeled racist. She described an extensive network of abusers operating across the entire country, calling it industrial on scale. It functions as a large central network with smaller connected groups in specific localities. Michelle claims she was roped between 600 and 700 different men over the course of 3 years. She now lives with severe PTSD and lifelong trauma. And then they include some links that if I wanted to go to them and continue reading to you, I could, but we're going to move on. I share that with you, number one, because the victims deserve it. people need to know, and they need to stop turning their head away and acting and putting their head in the sand and pretending like this doesn't exist. I've been preaching about this, if you want to call it that, from the beginning. I was talking about this kind of stuff happening, not that particular report, since the beginning, because that's where God wanted me to start, even in my podcasts. Many times I broke down in tears. You guys know I do that anyway. But when things really affect me emotionally, and this stuff is dark and it's rough, and I break down in tears just reading it to you guys. Shall we never get to the point where we think this is normal? We get so used to it, or it's so big. What can we do about it? We can talk about it. We can tell people it's real. I could give you a list of people I know personally, which you wouldn't know them anyway, but if I brought this up, they would be angry with me, and they would not want me to talk about. Why do you talk about such bad, ugly stuff? Why do you do that? Why do you bring it up? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I have nightmares. I understand all that. Trust me, I do. But I can't help but say, I'm sorry, but what do you think those children are going through? Your nightmares are not of priority here. Sorry, but not sorry. I know it's rough. I've shed too many tears to say I don't know that. But it doesn't change the fact that
Pete Santilli.
You guys already know that voice if you know him. You guys are here, and I'm not talking to you. You guys are here. But you guys all have those people in your life. I'm sure you do. And we just got to keep, for the victim's sake, for the children's sake, we just need to keep talking about it. And it's not because okay, let me go one more place with this and then we'll move on. I'm not saying we have to talk about this because it's our job to be the exposers. My opinion of what our job is to prepare those for what's coming who refuse to hear about it. This is jump off the top of a building kind of stuff. This is jump off a bridge kind of stuff into a river. And people need to be prepared emotionally and prepared mentally. Have a few seeds planted that they're not taken so by surprise. They're not gutted to the point of losing it. That's our job. And that's why God has had me talk about this from the beginning. And I do believe, and I know now, all these years later, that's why he started me there. It's like the old saying, someone had to do it. Someone had to do it. And God prepared me so I could talk to you and others. Okay, we're going to move on. I don't talk about it often, but it needs to be talked about, and tonight was the night, because this inquiry, this report, became public last week, and it's that important. All right, we are going to go to part 5 of Fall of the Cabal. And then the segment about the elections is going to be the last thing we cover, because it is like 45 minutes. And as always, we go until we go. But if you get tired and you have to go to bed, it's going to be at the later part of the podcast. And maybe you'll get through 10 minutes of it, but that will, For those of you that you want to know the truth about the election fraud and what's coming and how it's coming and why it's coming and where they found it and how they did it, this video will tell you all of that. And hopefully you do care about that. Hopefully you do. Like, if we don't, who will, right? So hopefully you do. So I'm going to start with part 5, and this one is 28 minutes. So this is again about the Georgia Guidestones, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the UN, and anything else? Maybe a few other things in between there. And then we will go straight from that. There's some updates I wanted to give you guys too, but I'll see after this. I'll look at the time and maybe I can give you a couple of those updates too in between the two. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and we are finished part 4, as you can see on the screen, part 4. Again, this is a sequel to the Fall of the Cabal, and we are going into part 5. And let me just see if there were any other comments, just in case, but I don't think there was, because I try to keep an eye on it. Okay, we're good. All right. So part 5 of the Fall of the Cabal. In the previous parts, we exposed the Cabal and their evil plans, as outlined in their macabre protocols of Zion. What about this day and age? Have they actually reached their goal of world dominance?
Let me take you on a field trip to Georgia, US. On a hill in Elbert County, there is a granite monument called the Georgia Guidestones. Built in 1980, the monument is veiled in mystery. It was commissioned by a man who used the pseudonym R.C. Christian. He paid a handsome price, but insisted on remaining anonymous. The monument consists of 4 massive standing stones, 1 slab stone at the top, carried by a pillar stone, plus 1 explanatory stone. 2 things are captivating. First of all, the monument is an astronomical clock and calendar, focused on the sun, the moon, the equinoxes, and the solstices. A hole was drilled in one of the stones, through which one can see the North Star. Secondly, the stones contain text, information about the future Earth and the era of reason. It is written in 8 modern languages. The shorter message is inscribed all around the top stone in 4 ancient languages: Babylonian, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Ancient Egyptian. This is the message. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just thoughts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. In short, population control, the annihilation of a large part of the population, pacific reproduction through eugenics, 1 language, 1 world court, social duties over personal rights, reason over passion, Christ, truth, whose truth? And nature over the human race, the cancer of the earth. And not to forget what they call the age of reason. Not the age of love, or the age of compassion, or the age of abundance for all. Obviously, this monument cannot be accused of being a hoax. After all, it simply stands there. So, what are we looking at? Who on earth was the mysterious Mr. Christian who was willing to pay so much money for something so intricate and controversial? It seems to us that the Georgia Guidestones perfectly demonstrate the goal of the cabal, the protocols of Zion, and the way they've been trying to hide their true intentions, by means of the eagerly gullible term sustainability. So, what do we see in our world today that is a reflection of these guidelines, these goals? Enter the United Nations. Believed by the majority of the people to be a wonderful institution, the UN was founded right after World War II in October 1945. Officially, the UN was set up to maintain worldwide peace and security and to develop relations and cooperation among nations. Their blue helmets are associated by many with the protection of the people. They are called the peacekeepers. Well, that's one side of the coin. The other side shows quite a different picture. A picture in which the UN's goal is a new world order, a one world government as promoted by the learned elders of Zion. Is that a proven fact? Yes. In 2008, the UN actually set up their very own UN New World Order project, led by Nelson Mandela's grandson and ex-CIA Jaime Ilian.
Because some of you can't read it, maybe because you're on your phone or whatever, I'll read this. About the United Nations. The United Nations New World Order Project is a global, high-level initiative founded in 2008 and led by Nada Mandela and Jamie Ilian to advance a new economic paradigm and a new world order for humankind, which achieves the UN's global goals for sustainable development by 2030 and the happiness, well-being, and freedom of all life on Earth by 2050.
According to highly influential people like the presidents Bush Sr. and Bush Jr. and Gorbachev, the New World Order must be founded on the principle of collective security. And that is precisely where the UN comes in. The UN Blue Helmets can lawfully intervene whenever the UN believes a country is a danger to collective security. They can lawfully send an army and attack that country, like they did in the Korean War in 1950, and again in the Persian Gulf in 1990. Or they can lawfully send military missions to a country like in Sierra Leone from 1999 till 2006. The UN Army comprises of 70,000 soldiers from various countries. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, let's put it this way. Assuming that the intent was good, the outcome was often bad, terrible as a matter of fact, even shockingly horrific. Now we understand that many people will have a very hard time realizing that organizations such as the UN and its WHO are not the benign entities they claim to be. We understand the level of cognitive dissonance, of denial that we may trigger. But it is imperative to realize that both the UN and the WHO are cabal machines to the core. They hide behind a facade of beauty, but make no mistake.
The WHO is the World Health Organization, if you weren't aware of that.
Behind their mask, these entities are monsters. So, In order to deal with the myth of the peacekeepers, here are some facts that everybody needs to know. The UN has been involved with sexual exploitation and abuse for decades. There have been countless reports of sexual abuse, rape, women and child trafficking. When UN peacekeepers were stationed in Cambodia in 1993, the number of prostitutes rose from 6,000 to more than 25,000 in that year alone. The widespread use of prostitutes involved violent sexual abuse of girls.
The UN talks about prostitutes. Women and girls who were trafficked and raped are not prostitutes. They are the victims of human child trafficking and RAPE. Please let that sink in.
The UN response was threefold. The head of mission declared it wasn't important enough to follow up on, and that boys will be boys. Mission leadership advised peacekeepers not to wear uniforms when visiting prostitutes or park UN vehicles directly outside. And an additional 800,000 condoms were shipped to Cambodia to prevent the spread of HIV. Ah well, 1993, that's a long time ago. Okay, 2 years later, in 1995, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, evidence emerged that women and girls were being trafficked to work as sex slaves for UN personnel, and later that interveners were complicit in sex trafficking. However, it took 6 years before the UN came forward with a statement, and only because of rising public attention.
Police officer Catherine Bokovic is sent to Bosnia to be part of the International Police of the United Nations, but when she's there, she finds out about human trafficking and sexual slavery activities, and mainly directed by UN officers, the military and the IPTF. I'm not sure what that is. It's probably international something. Kidnapped from other countries, the girls were sold to traffickers in Bosnia.
The official investigation into this matter reported an obvious reluctance by the UN to recognize the involvement of peacekeepers in trafficking. The result? Did the UN prosecute any of the abusers or traffickers? No, it did not. It rewrote the definition of trafficking, making it less severe a crime under international law, and failed to provide adequate victim protection. Shortly thereafter, independent consultants raised the alarm that UN and NGO staff were abusing and exploiting local women and girls in refugee camps in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. According to an OYOS investigation in 2001, sexual exploitation and abuse was most common. Examples? The sexual relationship between a UN civilian staff member and a 17-year-old refugee in exchange for school fees. The violent rape of girls by NGO staff. The rape of boys by Blue Helmets in Sierra Leone. The exchange of sex for food provided by NGO staff. And the refusal of international staff to take responsibility for children fathered with local women. From opportunistic sexual abuse, transactional sex, and networked sexual exploitation to planned sadistic attacks. 2015, Central African Republic. 2 girls aged 14 and 18 were gang raped by armed MINUSCA peacekeepers near their base. The 18-year-old had asked for some food. The 14-year-old had simply walked by. Same year, same country. Homeless and starving boys aged 8 to 15 were repeatedly raped by 26 UN peacekeepers.
French soldiers accused of raping homeless and hungry children in Central African Republic, UN report.
And UN peacekeepers randomly shot and killed a 16-year-old boy and his father and raped a 12-year-old girl. 2016, more than 108 additional cases were investigated, including the sexual abuse of 98 girls by international peacekeepers. The list of sexual exploitation and abuse is endless.
UN peacekeeper scandal. Troops in car paid 13-year-old. I couldn't get the rest of that. UN aid workers suspended for leaking report on child abuse. Whistleblower targeted for exposing UN troops raping children. Central African Republic murder by peacekeepers. Central African Republic UN completes investigations into allegations of sexual abuse. Mishka hit by another scandal. UN sex abuse scandal. Rise in allegations. United Nations responses to the sexual abuse and exploitation. Sexual abuse by caretakers. UN troops implicated in the RAP of girl and these allegations of rape and indiscriminate killing committed by UN troops are supported by physical evidence and multiple witness accounts.
In every single country, from Haiti to Somalia to Rwanda and Liberia, where 58,000 women and girls were raped in the first 9 years of UN MIL, more of 75% by UN personnel. From East Timor to Sarajevo, Bosnia, where Italian peacekeepers ran child prostitution rings from their barracks, the blue helmets left a trail of abuse and trauma. As one of the official reports so strikingly put it, many parts of the world where the UN was present were descending into chaos, if not hell, and arguably with the assistance of the UN. There were plenty of investigations, but hardly any of the perpetrators who admitted to their crimes were prosecuted. Let that sink in. Even recently, the UN was once again connected with child trafficking and child abuse, when Canadian UN mogul Peter Dalgleish was caught in the act abusing 2 young boys in Nepal. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Up until his arrest in 2019, Dalgleish had been presented as a saint, a protector of children. He was country representative for UN Habitat in Afghanistan. He truly was into children. He even set up Street Kids International to help homeless children. What a saint. What a great loss to our children. Oh, and the UN have more on their slate. Remember the war in former Yugoslavia from 1992 till 95? In July 95, the UN failed to protect the so-called safe area in the enclave of Srebrenica. Instead of protecting the Bosnian people who had fled there, the UN Dutchbat turned away. There was nothing they could do. They too had been betrayed at the highest level. "8,372 Bosnian men and boys were separated from their families one night and were slaughtered by Serbian armed forces."
Massacre at Srebrenica. 3 Muslims survive slaughter. Witness describes massacre by Serbs.
More than 100,000 people were massacred in this useless war, mostly Bosnians. Between 30 and 50,000 Bosnian women, children and elderly were raped and deported. The official status of genocide wasn't acknowledged under international law until 2004. back to the official mission of the UN to turn this world into a better place. This is highlighted by the Club of Rome, a group of 100 powerful men and women set up in 1968 by, among others, David Rockefeller at his private estate near Rome. A private club presenting itself as a think tank, providing suggestions to the UN. Its goal? To discuss its concern about the future of planet Earth, to come up with solutions, and to urge governments worldwide to act upon those solutions. In 1972, The Limits to Growth was published, the Club of Rome's first paper on the problems of humanity, followed by the First Global Revolution in 1991, in which humanity was outed as the root problem of all the misery in the world. In need of a common enemy against whom we can unite, we have decided that pollution, global warming, water shortages, famine, etc. are perfect. These are threats we need to confront together. But we should not fall into the trap of mistaking symptoms for causes. All these dangers are caused by human intervention in natural processes, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy is humanity itself. This, my friends, was the foundation of everything that was about to unfold. Humanity as the cause of all problems. The UN was delighted by the Club of Rome. It had founded the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1983. And the parallels with the conclusions of the First Global Revolution research paper were obvious. From now on, sustainability was the cabal's magic word. And so, in 1992, the first United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, or Earth Summit, was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where the first Agenda for Environment and Development, also known as Agenda 21, was developed and adopted. 21 was a reference to the 21st century, when all of the set goals would have to be met. 178 governments agreed with and signed the agreement. At the UN Sustainable Development Summit of 2015, Agenda 2030 was presented, an extended version of Agenda 21. 11 more goals were added to the original agenda, all aimed at the future of our planet and the human race. All aimed at sustainability. By now, 193 countries were participating. Do you know how many countries there are in the world? Only 2 more. 195. The only 2 that are called observer states are the Vatican and Palestine. Agenda 2030 contains 91 paragraphs. Paragraph 59 outlines 17 Sustainable Development Goals. There are 169 targets and 232 indicators. This makes it a rather dry document to digest. But we read it, and we were impressed. Impressed by the level of cleverness and cunningness with which something so evil was put together so seemingly benign. Using complex phrases in which words like peace, equality, safety and security are repeated frequently, the reader is actually left with a good, positive feeling. We'll show you the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in the following slide. Feel free to pause the video and have a proper look. We will, however, continue swiftly, as we wish to point out where things go wrong, not where things appear to be right.
We won't read all of these, but I'll stop at just, goal 1, goal 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I'm not going to read all of them, but she's going to go through them all on the These are goals 10 through 17. Moving on. I think she's going to highlight some of it.
Let's face it, these goals are not feasible. The Club of Rome and the UN can use as many beautiful words as they can come up with, but how on earth are they going to accomplish these 17 goals? By asking you and me to pay more tax? Think about it. Number 1, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Really? How? The word sustainable is used 10 times. Why? To throw fairy dust into our eyes so that we don't see? So that we will willingly pay more tax, and more tax, and more? So that the world will be saved from us, the cancer of the earth? There is nothing sound about these 17 goals. There is no logic. Take goal number 7. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. How? Are they finally giving the oppressed free 0-point energy of Nikola Tesla to the people?
Amen.
Really? The real reason why these goals were put together is to come to the conclusion that they can never be achieved as long as all the participating countries in the world and all their governments have to communicate with each other. That too much time, too much money is lost due to endless meetings. I'll bet you that the next step will be the announcement that the 17 Sustainable Development Goals can only be reached with a one world government. The countries will have to give up their sovereignty in order to save the world. Mark my words. The essence of the entire Agenda 2030 is socialist communistic. It describes equal distribution of goods and money, which sounds great, but which in fact means that the rich countries are to share their wealth with the poor countries. These poor countries are generally run by highly corrupted usurpers, dictators, such as Kenyatta of Kenya and Obiang of Papua New Guinea, or Xi Jinping of China. Are they going to share their wealth, their blood money, with their people? That sounds like a wonderful idea to get rid of poverty once and for all. Everybody would be rich in a split second. Let's take all the money from these corrupted governments, add to it the immense wealth of the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, both the British and the Dutch royal families, and of course the Vatican. Let's redistribute that wealth among the world population. My, what a marvelous idea to end poverty once and for all. Well, no. The people will share with the people. So, in my case, the Dutch taxpayer will have to pay and share with the poor people of, in this example, New Guinea. Now, don't get me wrong, I am for sharing, absolutely, but not according to the plans of the UN, where corrupt, malign governments remain unaffected. Read the paragraphs, the targets and indicators of Agenda 2030. Read them well, and you will see that the people will bleed, not the governments. Whenever governments talk about equality, you can rest assured that communism is involved, and they don't even hide it. Top globalists such as former NATO chief Javier Solana, a socialist, openly celebrate the plan as the next great leap forward. That's right, the old campaign slogan of the Chinese Communist Party. And isn't it odd that straight away just about every country in the world decided to participate and work together? Every dictator of every corrupt government who still had the blood on their hands of innocent civilian victims signed Agenda 21 and later Agenda 2030. Countries that have been at war with each other for years, like for instance Ethiopia and Eritrea, now all of a sudden shook hands, smiled in front of the camera, and decided to forget about their wars on drugs, weapons and people trafficking, just to focus on the importance of a better world? On sustainability? Are you kidding me? What on earth were we looking at here? How much will the implementation of Agenda 2030 cost anyway? Well, according to the UN, and confirmed by the World Bank in a 2015 statement, between $3 and $5 trillion per year. That is 12 zeros. $5 trillion per year. Where the hell is the UN going to get that money from? All those zeros are going to be collected from the taxpayers, from you and me. That's what the solution of the UN is all about. The moment a baby is born, that baby has a carbon footprint. And from the moment he or she was born, that baby will have to pay. Isn't that brilliant? The shame and blame that is put on you and me, my goodness me. Agenda 21, 2030, the Club of Rome, the UN, they all claim that we, the people, are to blame for the misery in the world, from poverty to inequality, from famine to the exhaustion of the planet's resources. Fine, let's talk about the planet's resources, shall we? Ever heard of Henry Kissinger? Oh, you will. Let's continue to part 6.
So I would imagine for many of you that was very eye-opening in regard to the UN. I know it was for me when I saw it the first time. And who is it that wants to withdraw? Where have we heard that before? Oh, Bad Man Orange. President Trump knows, well, so much more than we do. I mean, if you're watching this, you're probably in the same boat with me. He's probably got his finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world pretty well. And he knows about the evil in the UN, about all of the... I don't know if you remember back in 2020, 2021, and there was talk of, the fake Biden administration, trying to put fear in the people, and they're going to bring the UN in the United States, the UN. Well, yeah, did you see what the UN does? Do you see how they pillage people? Do you see what they've done worldwide? She did the research. We didn't have to. All we need to do is watch it. We need to make the decision to say we want to know what's going on in this world. And we want to understand why President Trump has been talking about the UN as we always were brought up. Oh, UN is good. United Nations, is wonderful. No, it's not. You watched it. You were here. I hope you watched. I hope you still heard. You watched it. If you didn't, that's your choice, and we all have free will. But this stuff is happening, and this guy knows what's going on in the world. And half of those leaders, this is a few years old. Many of these leaders are already disappeared or gone or resigned or died or whatever. I mean, the evil is being eradicated in this world. But this was the UN's plan for you and me and for all of humanity. And it wasn't for our benefit, and it wasn't for our good. So I hope that helped. I hope that every one of these episodes will help. Help you understand, help all of us understand, and get a better understanding of what he does and why. What he does and why. President Trump is not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. God doesn't appoint perfect people. He appoints people perfect for the job. And just listen in between the lines. You know what he's doing. I already had seen this episode. I knew how corrupt and evil the UN was. So when I heard President Trump first start talking about the U.S. withdrawing from the UN, I'm like, yes! Because I'm not... Hosea 4:6 says, "For my people will perish for lack of knowledge." I've chosen to obtain these things of knowledge, so I understand, or have a better understanding, or at least some seeds are planted of understanding when something comes out of his mouth, like we're going to, the U.S., the UN is, what, all the different things he has said negative about the UN, and the TDSers and the liberals are, oh, and I'm like, yeah, but that's because I understand, and now you understand a little bit more about why, like just that one little thing, one little thing of a gazillion things he's doing. The UN. What you just saw was why. And now you understand. And that's a few more people in the world that know the truth. So I'm going to go to a few updates because they're really important. And we're all interested in what's going on with the gasoline prices, okay? So I want to cover an update about that. A couple of days ago, President Trump, it might have been 3 or 4 days ago, like I said, I had family in town this past weekend, so I've lost, was it 3 days ago? Was it 5 days ago? Was it 2 days ago? But President Trump instructed the Department of Justice to investigate the big oil companies that supply the gasoline, whether it's Exxon or Standard Oil or BP, all of the big names, because of price gouging. If they find out there's price gouging, President Trump has made it very clear that, and he already knows there's price gouging. Don't think he doesn't know. He knows, but sometimes you can't tell the people. You got to show them. So now the Department of Justice is investigating it. It'll come out like the fraud in Minnesota came out, and the fraud in California, and the fraud, all this is coming out. So let me show you where that's at. President Trump wrote a truth in Truth Social, and he posted, gasoline retailers must get their prices down immediately. They're too high, considering that oil is now $68 a barrel and heading south, meaning going down. The retailers must quickly react to this statement and do what they know is right. Drop your price for our great American people. There will be no gouging. It is totally illegal. If you don't do this, big problems lie ahead. Start targeting around $2.50 a gallon. And California should stop charging such heavy taxes on their gasoline. Soon the tax will be higher than the product itself, and the United States will not stand for it, nor will the people of California, who are being abused by these ridiculous taxes and by their own government. President Donald J. Trump. Eric Doherty posted this and said, breaking, President Trump has just told gas retailers to immediately drop their prices to $2.50 per gallon and stop overcharging. So, big news. Are the TDSers going to complain about that? Are they going to complain when the prices go down? Because who? Oh, Bad Man Orange decided to have a Department of Justice investigate what he already knew was happening. It's real obvious it's happening. Oil has never been this low. So sometimes you can't show the people, you got to tell the people. That's a Q post for those that don't know. And that is what is going on right now in every area of our world. Sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show the people. We had to see the open borders. We had to see what that liberal administration, fake as it was, would do. What the communism, the New York, that Mandami being voted in. Now, like, I think there were 5 candidates that were in there that were, you know, like voted on to be able to run, all socialist, all of them. Like, sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show the people. Now, my point of telling you that is not to go, oh, all these bad things are happening. No. We're watching a movie and it's playing out. And I say that all the time. We're watching a movie. That's part of Q Post as well. It's all playing out. Everything is planned. Everything that is coming out. Sometimes you can't show the people, you got to tell the people. So that brings me to the Supreme Court. There's been a couple of good rulings. There have been some real crappy rulings. You know, birthright baby thing. You know, the Supreme Court. Amy Coney Barrett, she's being exposed to what she really is and who she's always been. Trump appointed her. But Trump appointed her. Yeah. He brings attention to people. You know, like, puts them in the limelight. Now, she can't help but be exposed. Is she going to vote for the people? For we the people? Is she going to follow the Constitution? Is she going to do the right thing when put on the spot, like on some of these Supreme Court orders? So let me show you this one. And again, sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show the people. So don't be like losing your mind or getting all nervous and all this. Oh, SCOTUS, he didn't side with Trump. They didn't side with Trump, you know. That must mean Trump's not good. Because SCOTUS are judges. They're good. They're like the main judges. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Let me show you this post. This is from SGNN in X. And about the SCOTUS. So the Supreme Court of the United States is not going to save the American people, not from poisoning. This is what SGNN is saying. Not from stolen elections, not from mass poisoning, not from politicized and weaponized judicial proceedings, such as the E.J. Carroll, not from the environment of the climate cults, not from foreign financial interests co-opting institutional purity. The Supreme Court is not going to save the American people from secret society control over the court itself, like the American ends of the court and the remainder of the U.S. government. Not from biological terrorism, not from acts of war being routinely leveled against the American people. Now, why is he saying all this? Let's go on. Under what article can the president impose military intelligence take over investigations for 3-letter agencies? What conditions must present itself? Why is this so important? And yes, that was a Q post asking all those questions. Under what article can the president, the sitting president, impose military intelligence and take over investigations? Okay, under what conditions must present itself? And why is this important? What conditions must prevent itself? Answer: the complete failure of all constitutional civilian branches of the U.S. government in preserving and protecting the Republic from criminal intent and failure through domestic treachery. All right, there's the answer. What conditions must present itself? The complete failure of all constitutional So the recent high court rulings on whether it's glyphosate, politicized sex crime accusations, mail-in balloting, today's Mississippi ruling, this was yesterday I think that he wrote this, they're all helping to ensure that the only way out of the net is through the U.S. military, domestically deployed and charged with preserving the Republic and protecting the Constitution and the American people. So once again, sometimes you can't tell the people, you have to show the people. The people have to see, even some awake people, you know, like, they're like freaking out right now because SCOTUS didn't vote the right way. Of course, SCOTUS didn't vote the right way because some of them are corrupt and they have to be exposed. Disclosure. This is the disclosure year. This is the disclosure term of President Trump. All of these things are being exposed. So, again, is it a surprise to me? Like, did I want it to be simple and easy and the Supreme Court just votes the right way? I knew that wasn't going to happen because I'm knowledgeable. I'm knowledgeable of what's going on behind the scenes because I study this stuff and I read this stuff and I follow this stuff and I look into it and I dig into it and until I do understand. And the point of all this is to say, so we don't get all riled up. So we don't get worried and we don't have fear, because that's what the enemy wants to do, is give us fear. Oh, even the Supreme Court is siding with the liberals. Of course they are, because some of them are corrupt. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's look at another Supreme Court post by Joe Lang, also in X. Joe Lang is a great account to follow. I try to recognize all of them that I show you. So he says, I would encourage everyone to relax on the two big losses at the Supreme Court. He says, step back. There's something bigger happening. And then he had a busy weekend too, it seems. He says, I missed most of the news happening yesterday. He goes, Trump's reaction to his loss on mail-in ballots, some people were just freaking out. Oh, no. It was eye-opening to me because Trump didn't seem too fazed by the ruling. He used some wording in his response which downplayed the ruling, and I think that was the key. Now, there is a little video clip he's showing of those words, but just for time's sake, we'll just go on. Did you catch the part everyone missed? This is what a little line Trump said. Basically, they're keeping it, the SCOTUS, Supreme Court, is keeping it a little way that it is now. I mean, you'd think Trump would be like railing, because ticked off. He goes, basically, they're keeping it a little way that it is now. Okay, reminder. Trump isn't trying to get rid of all mail-in ballots. That's never been the goal, to get rid of all mail-in ballots. He doesn't want that. He just wants to get rid of the fraudulent ones. The largest group of mail-in ballots comes from the military. He doesn't want to get rid of that. So, go back to the statement right here. Basically, they're keeping it a little way that is now. So don't want to get rid of the mail-in ballots for the people that are not corrupt. So then he goes on to say, Joe Lang goes on to say, remember the Bush versus Gore election? And this was a quote, Governor George W. Bush sued election officials in 13 Florida counties today for rejecting the absentee ballots of members of the military serving abroad, capitalizing on an issue that has been a public relations boom to Republicans and that could determine the fate of hundreds of votes for the presidency. Okay, then there was a clip about that. Now, if anybody should be protected, it should definitely be the people who are risking their lives to protect our freedoms. Trump is going to protect the mail-in ballots of our military personnel. But why did Trump say the Supreme Court ruling was basically keeping it a little the way it is now? A little the way it is now. The Supreme Court didn't prevent ballots received after Election Day from being counted, but did require the ballots to be postmarked by Election Day. Okay, so what's the big deal about that? Joe asks. Here it is, game theory. Trump and the Supreme Court are in the process of removing the avenues for cheating through mail-in ballots in the future, while at the same time preventing the future lawsuits that try and prevent military ballots that were mailed by Election Day. So again, the Supreme Court ruling is that part right there, preventing future lawsuits that they try to prevent military ballots that were mailed by Election Day. Don't forget, the U.S. Postal Service is refusing all mail-in ballots that are not verified by the Federal Registry proving citizenship. And the Postal Service owns a patent on blockchain technology associated with mail-in ballots. None of this is a coincidence. Remember, we're watching a movie. Remember, sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show them. So what looked like a loss, oh no, the Supreme Court ruled against us. What looked like a loss actually helped cement in the Constitution. President Trump is a Constitution, law, and order president. That all mail-in ballots must be postmarked by Election Day. Blockchain technology will be used to prove that postmark in the future. Never forget that Trump is playing the long game and trying to establish as many legal safeguards as possible. The same with the birthright citizenship loss. I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, they just would have ruled and that would have been taken care of. But it can't be that way, because sometimes you got to show the people. You can't tell them. You got to show them. So it looks really bad. But most people are missing the same playbook by Brett Kavanaugh when Trump took his first loss at the Supreme Court over tariffs. Trump purposely used a specific law on tariffs that was rejected by the Supreme Court. He knew it would be rejected. He's a pretty smart guy. Trump was purposely limiting the broad use of that specific law by past presidents so that presidents in the future can't use it to get rid of his tariffs. So what did Trump do? The same day, he took Kavanaugh's advice and reinstated the tariffs, using the law that is now deemed constitutional. He's a constitutional president. Brett Kavanaugh just did the same thing with birthright citizenship. He outlined the legal pathway. President Trump is a law and order president too. The legal pathway that the Supreme Court will approve for ending birthright citizenship. From Senator Eric Schmidt, quote, "The majority tried to constitutionalize unlimited birthright citizenship, but Justice Kavanaugh may have left Congress a door." This is going right up here. Again, Trump is playing the long game, wherever that was. They're playing the long game to get it done right. "I'm filing legislation to walk through it," says Senator Eric Schmidt, "and I'll keep working on a constitutional amendment to restore American citizenships." Okay, Rand Paul. Whoops. All right, we'll get there again. Rand Paul, where was I? There it is. Okay, Rand Paul. I got to move that over, don't I? Okay. Has also declared that he is for the amendment. Have you noticed Rand has flipped and is now supporting Trump? Oh, surprise, surprise. Trump is playing the long game, and this, quote, loss will be turned into a win. But more importantly, immigration law will be permanently changed to prevent birthright citizenship. When? In the future. What happened at the Supreme Court over the last 2 days is not the end of the story. The end results are what really matters, and that's the game that Trump is playing. That is the goal, is so we never get in this position again in this country. So things we don't understand, and again, the more we know, the more we look into things, the more we try to understand things. Like, I was zero surprised how the Supreme Court ruled on these. Zero. It didn't faze me. It didn't rock my world. It didn't upset me. It didn't put fear in me. It didn't, nothing. It was like I expected it. Why? Because Trump plays a long game. Why else? Because I trust Trump, because I trust God. Why? because I believe he would not be in power if God didn't put him there. Those are my beliefs, and I'm steadfast in them. So I don't get all racked up. And I know we're watching a movie, and I know we're watching things that we don't understand sometimes, but they do. He does. And I trust him because I trust God. So I don't get all jacked up and all worried and all freaked out and all of that. It's like we're watching a movie. Sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show the people. I'm sick of the movie. Don't get me wrong. I'm sick of the movie. I'm like, can we get through the end, please? But I'm okay that we're not at the end because God's timing is perfect. I trust God. That's the bottom line for me. I trust God, and his timing is perfect. So let's talk. I got to talk about this too. The weather manipulation. There's a big update, huge update. And the huge weather update, oh my gosh, you guys. For 47 years, you might think it only started a few years ago. When I learned about weather manipulation, I thought it only started a few years ago. For 47 years, they have controlled the skies through a network of 22 weather modification stations that could direct hurricanes, droughts, floods, and earthquakes on demand at any place to any place in this world. The program was called Throne Climate. Look it up, Throne Climate. And was funded by a labyrinth of NGOs, non-government organizations. Oh, those really organizations we can trust, right? We've learned no, we can't trust them. It was funded by NGOs, by carbon credit systems and green energy foundations, all connected to the same family office in Geneva, Switzerland, that has controlled European banks since 1815. This is not a new game for them. A few days ago, the last station, there were 22 weather modification stations. There were 22. A few days ago, the last weather station was disconnected and seized in a military operation involving 6 nations that have never publicly acknowledged that they even work together. The weather, this is amazing, the weather is no longer a weapon. For the first time since 1979, the skies belong to no one. They're back to Mother Nature, or back to God. The weather is no longer a weapon. Since 1979, but now the skies belong to no one. Every natural disaster of the last 47 years had a signature, a digital fingerprint embedded in the ionosphere that preceded it. HAARP researchers have detected it for decades. They were ridiculed, but they were right about everything. Hurricane Katrina, the frequency traced detected 72 hours before impact. The 2010 Haiti earthquake had the very same frequency signature, originating from a station in Venezuela. One of the stations was in Venezuela. The last station was just ended. There was just a huge earthquake. And I pray for all of the people affected, and it was a devastating earthquake. They're estimating over 69,000 people probably have died, and probably more. Devastating. I don't know if that was part of this, but it seems pretty coincidental to me that in a few days ago, and this earthquake was a few days ago, that it was in Venezuela, and Venezuela just, got leveled in a lot of area by an earthquake, and so many people are dead, missing, and hurt, and I pray for those people. But going back to the point, Hurricane Katrina, the frequency was traced 74 hours before impact. 2010 Haiti earthquake, the same. And that originated from a station in Venezuela. The 2011 earthquake, the signature of that was attributed to a flagless ship operating in the Pacific. The ship's registration, obtained via a quantum financial system maritime tracking, belongs to a company conveniently located where? In the Cayman Islands. The company's sole director, a family trust of none other than the Rothschild family. They didn't predict disasters. They ordered them. Why control the weather? Because the weather controls everything. It controls food prices, insurance markets, government stability, migration systems, election outcomes, and might I add, trafficking, and the evil that can be committed against children. And that's happening right now in Venezuela as well. There are reports of children that areas by the areas, just like they did in Lahaina, they wouldn't let the people back in to where their home was, to where their family was. They blocked off all the streets and all of the areas that were devastated in Lahaina in Hawaii a few years ago. They are doing the same thing in Venezuela. The authorities are not letting the people back. Well, it's for your safety. That's what they said in Lahaina too. But children were being removed. There are reports of that. God help them. So, again, why control the weather? Because the weather controls everything. Food prices, insurance markets, government stability, migration system, election outcomes. They didn't need an army. They didn't need murders. They needed rain, or they needed drought in the right place at the right time. $4.2 trillion in natural disaster damages since 1979. Betting on the destruction they created, harvesting the suffering they caused. For the first time now, in half a century, the rain will fall where it should fall, and weather will be as God created it to be. So that is huge news. And I can't say from that article I just shared with you whether or not there couldn't be. I mean, from the looks of this article, it's done. From the looks of this article, like when they closed down that last weather manipulation station, they called it weather modification stations. According to this, it's done. So praise the Lord. I mean, if it is done. And according to that, it is. So let's pray that that's accurate. I can't say 100% if it is. Of course I can't say. But what I can say is God is in control. God has put people in control to get the job done. President Trump is one of them. And we are looking at a world that's changing right before our very eyes. We are blessed. I've said it forever, like in these podcasts, we are blessed beyond measure to be witnesses to what God is doing for such a time as this. And I realized I really couldn't show that I'm going to do it Thursday. We're going to open with that. We may not do, a Fall of the Cabal part on Thursday, but I'm working on another article for you guys on Thursday, and I'm going to focus on the information I wanted to share with you tonight about the fraud, the election fraud. But it's 45 minutes, like I said. So I just thought I'd give you these cool updates, amazing updates. I'm going to give you one more in regards to the gas. Like, we know what President Trump did, the gasoline and the oil companies and all that stuff. We know what he did. He called them out. But let me show you, and I'm going to play this short video clip. It's only 30 seconds. I'm going to play this for you as well. But let me also tell you this. I forgot to tell you this. I want you to know that that article I read you about the weather modification, it came from a channel in X that is a blue check channel for WikiLeaks 1.0. WikiLeaks 1.0. And that goes all the way back, like whether it's really Julian Assange or someone posting in his, it has been a verified account in regard to, it's authentic. It's not like a spam account or that sort of thing. So again, that's WikiLeaks 1.0. And so if you want to look that up, I told you about Eric Daldy. I told you about Joe Lang. Okay, so this is another one on the gas prices, more let's say, credibility and authenticity to what's happening and what's coming is lower gasoline prices. And this is in a channel called Medea Greer, Greere, and she wrote, "Deep State Panic, the war against the big oil is on. Globalist oil cartels are trembling of President Trump demanding immediate $2.50 gas, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just dropped a chilling ultimatum on live TV, and this was earlier today, to stop corporate price gouging." And so let's listen to this short little 30-second video clip that she included.
We've got a chart of how quickly the prices went up and how they followed crude, and we're going to hold them accountable on the other side. President Trump talked about it the past week. He had a very powerful Truth Social yesterday. So I would encourage all the gasoline retailers. Some of them are owned by big oil, some are independent, some are international convenience chains. I would encourage them to be good actors, especially in the 250th anniversary, because we're watching. We've got a chart of how quickly the price.
Yeah, so it's happening, guys. I mean, President Trump, as much as the TDSers and all of the black pillars out there and the doom and gloomers out there want to say, oh, he's dead, whatever, he's getting the job done. He's always got the job done. He's continuing to get the job done. And how do you fix 150 plus years of corruption, deception, lies, greed, evil? I mean, he's done it now. I mean, he was in full control even, let's just, 9 years. His first 4 years, the fake 4 years of Biden, and he's had 1.5 years in this term. So that would be 9.5 years right now. Putting an end to over 150 plus years, and not just, in this country. That's just in this country. But he's dealing with things all over the world, too. I mean, no sleep for the weary, right? All right, so let me see if there's anything else I want to cover before we close tonight. And how long is that? This is kind of interesting, too, that I didn't get to the other day. Well, it's all interesting, but I saw this video a long time ago. I would say 6 or 7 years ago. And it's from a long, long time ago. But this is a short little video clip. But let me read to you what is some of you have heard of Project Looking Glass. Project Looking Glass. Now, this is like the most encouraging thing you will hear. I mean, I try to encourage you always throughout my podcast, but this is just really cool. When I heard it multiple years ago, I was like, wow. It wowed me. All right. So this is I even have it in my file somewhere, but somebody posted it, somebody who has the X, I believe it's blue check, so I believe it is LT from And We Know. And so this is And We Know account. And this was posted a few days ago, but at any rate, I wanted to make sure I tell you guys about it if you didn't know about it. So Project Looking Glass revealed the future the elites could not stop. So for those of you that are new, and you may not understand Project Looking Glass, it is an authentic program, Project Looking Glass. It has to do with seeing in the future, maybe / time travel, maybe not getting there, but seeing what's coming to make sure that certain events would or wouldn't happen and control that. Now, let me explain that. The deep state, the evildoers, they would use Project Looking Glass for evil. What the enemy means for evil, God will use for good. So this is a really cool little video clip. It was a long video. This is just a little clip from that video. But so Project Looking Glass is about seeing in the future. If you don't think that's possible, I think you have to open your mind a little bit more, because I think we're going to learn about a whole lot of things that we always thought were not possible, like time travel. That was all fiction, right? And I don't know what is and what isn't, but I do believe all things are possible, because I believe with God, God is able. Anything. Nothing is off the table for me, because I trust God, and God is able, no matter what. So what the enemy means for evil, God will use for good. So with that being said, and Project Looking Glass is about time travel. Now I will read this to you. Project Looking Glass revealed the future the elites could not stop. So again, their plan, and you're seeing this in the Fall of the Cabal, the sequel, their plan was to steal, kill, and destroy us. They worship the devil, and that is their job, and that's what they do, and they want to continue to just wipe us all out. Like Georgia Guidestones, they talked about that. 18 out of every 19 people, according to their plan. 18 out of 19 people, based on the world population today, they wanted to reduce the population of the world to 500 million. Okay, that's 500 million. Based on the population today, that would mean 18 out of 19 people would perish. Bye. That was their plan. Okay, so let's go back to this. Project Looking Glass revealed the future the elites couldn't stop. You can replace the word elites with the cabal, the deep state, Mossad, the CCP, the Khazarian Mafia, the Zionists. We talked about Zionists in the Fall of the Cabal. Okay, so what happened? In the 1990s, Project Looking Glass reportedly showed the so-called elites that God already won. God already won. No matter what, and remember, Project Looking Glass is real. So no matter what they tried, whether it be war, pandemics, distractions, or manipulation, every simulation pointed to the same outcome: a massive shift in consciousness. That would be your consciousness and my consciousness, humanity's consciousness. A massive shift in consciousness. We're all waking up. And a return to the truth. All possible futures converged on awakening. They couldn't stop it. The elites have fought it for decades. But we're living in it. We're witnessing it. The tide is turning. The Great Awakening is here. Truth is breaking through, which does this. Makes a massive shift in consciousness. And whether you understand it or I understand it, that's a big deal. It's a big deal to turning things around. A massive shift. So listen to this guy. This is, I can't remember his name, and I don't even know if it's in this. Let me see if it says in this. Okay, so let me read what this says to you guys.
Listen to this.
Okay, so observing consciousness is what he's reposting. LT from And We Know. Why did they turn quantum into a sci-fi buzzword and new age woo to make real breakthroughs sound impossible or fake? We've known for a very long time, since the 1990s, that Project Looking Glass already showed the elites every timeline they tried to force, and everyone ended the same. There was a mass awakening. The veil lifted, and God already winning. The language was the distraction. This quantum age isn't coming. It's been here for decades. All right, so let's listen to this 45-minute clip.
Listen to this.
Happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up.
Something big's coming up. The 1990s Project Looking Glass showed so-called elites that God already won. They saw the future was about a shift in consciousness they couldn't stop, no matter what they tried. Wars, pandemics, and distractions. Every simulation pointed to the same outcome. Mass awakening, a return to truth.
Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future.
Now that was an extremely long video that this man did, and I watched the whole thing, and it was fascinating. And it was so long ago, but I probably saved it in my files as well. But when this popped up, I just reposted it on my X channel. I wanted to bring it to you guys. So anyway, we've already won this thing, and I say that all the time. This war of good versus evil. God wins. He already won. But they even, like, the elites used to use this Project Looking Glass for bad. And, of course, God will use what the enemy means for evil for good. And so sometimes, like, we wonder, how did Q know these things? Like these deltas. 3 years ago today, there was a post that reflects something happening today, or 8 years ago today, or whatever the case may be. How does that happen? How did Q have these facts in advance? Project Looking Glass. It's real, whether we understand it or not. It's real. And it's just one of the many, I believe, hidden technologies that we've never were made aware of. But we are becoming aware of it, and we are being made aware of it. And our minds may be closed to it. God told me in the beginning, your mind is like a parachute. It's got to be open in order to work. So, and it wasn't something God gave me in those words. It's something I knew for years and years. It's just God brought it up in my spirit to recall that. And I used to even say that at multiple seminars I did in my public speaking tours and things like that. And that was something I shared. And, like, we have to have an open mind about everything. I wasn't in the Great Awakening back then. But the thing, if I was talking about, health regarding things that weren't drugs and medicine, which I did for decades, talking to people about healthy alternatives and so forth, and to prevent disease as opposed to getting sick and then trying to treat it. So a lot of people had closed minds, and they still do when it comes to doctors and big pharma and drugs and all that crap. But back then it was even harder. I mean, people today at least are waking up, because sometimes you can't tell the people, you got to show them, and we have seen the damages that big pharma has done and continues to do. But at any rate, if you jump out of an airplane and you have a parachute and it doesn't open, you're gonna fall to that'll be the end of you. So our minds are like a parachute. our minds are like a parachute. They have to be open in order to work. So like a parachute has to be open to make sure we land safely on the ground, our minds have to be open in order to land safely in this world we're living in. That's what God was telling me, like, bringing that back into, my thought at the very beginning of my awakening journey. And so that's what I've said to you guys for years, no matter how much of this makes no sense to you, and a lot of you are newer and you're just waking up or not been awake too long. Many of you already know and agree, like, Project Looking Glass is real. You know it is. I know it is. But a lot of new people didn't, and I didn't either when this whole thing started. For me, like 8 years ago. All right. We're going to close in prayer. We will look at the election fraud summit video on Thursday. And I should have time to get my article done, the fascinating article. Some of you like it when I write stuff. So I've got some things I'm putting together for my next podcast as well. And then we'll see where current events take us and so forth. I may not have time to do part 6 next time because I'm going to do that longer video, 45 minutes, regarding the election fraud summit. But we'll just see. But now we're going to pray, as we always do. We're going to pray the drop number 4739 from the Q Military Intelligence Operation. It was first published and written on September 20th of 2020 by the Q Military Operation. When you hear this, if you had any doubt before that God was behind this entire operation, this prayer tells you everything you need to know. They knew what we would need. They knew what we would need. And this was in 2020, and it's now 2026. And we have to stay strong, and the only way to do that is through our faith, through our trust in God. And regardless of what we see or what other people are saying or whatever, we stay focused on God. We trust Him, and then it just follows that we would trust who He put in charge. And this prayer, that doesn't mention President Trump or anything like that, but it sure does the Holy Spirit and spiritual warfare. So please pray in agreement with me as we pray this together, and then we will close with this as well as the Lord's Prayer. Strengthen our faith, Lord. Forgive us our sins so that we may be clean in your righteousness. Make us brave so we can stand and fight the spiritual battles that are in our lives and in our world. Give us your wisdom and discernment, Lord, so we won't be caught off guard. Together, Lord, we win. We win because, in truth, you already have. While evil still roams, the power of your name rises up in victory against every evil planned against us. While malicious actions may disturb us, we use the weapons of warfare and the armor of God that you have equipped us with so we can stand firm. You will bring justice in due time against all the harm and needless violence aimed at your children. But until then, we look to you, God, as our supreme commander and protector. Help us to avoid temptation and deliver us from evil, Lord. You are the mighty one. You are the one who will ultimately bring all this evil to light, to truth. With you, Jesus, we are safe. Our Father, who art in heaven, holy be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, right where you said it would, right here on earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And thank you for delivering this world from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. And all the people said, Amen. Amen and amen. I keep saying Thursday. I'm thinking in my mind that I might have a commitment on Thursday, which means I'd be with you on Friday. But that commitment might be on Friday. But either way, I'll be with you later this week. If it's not Thursday, it'll be Friday. And if any of you want the notifications, have me send them to you, you have to reach out to me and find me in Facebook Messenger if you're on Rumble or another platform, but leave me a message in a video that gives me your username in Facebook, because if you are not friends, then they will go to another folder, and that's where all the spam goes, because we're not friends. And so many of those are like, well, things I never look at or answer, because it's people like, scamming or trying to, I guess, tell me I'm the most beautiful person in the world, and they saw me and they just couldn't live without me, and would I please respond to them? delete. So anyway, if you are reaching out to me and you are authentic and you seriously want notifications and you're following those podcasts, I will respond. I will check your profile out. I'll make sure that you are real. I will not respond if I think it has even a little hint of what I just said, because I delete all those, but I don't check that folder very often. But I go in there and delete. So anyway, if you do want notifications, let me know your username in Facebook. In Rumble. If you leave me a comment in Rumble or YouTube on my videos, you've got to give me your username there, because otherwise I won't be able to connect the dots and I will not respond. So yeah, there we go. With that, we're going to call it a night. And it's been my pleasure and privilege to be with you as always. This is Nancy with Seeking Truth Always. And I will close with God's blessing to you. May God bless you and keep you. And may His light shine upon you and give you peace. And I look forward to being with you next time. And bye for now.